F. Jason.
I was thinking Dominic.
Short straw.
Ooh,
Oh, Dominic.
Ooh.
is he
He's
is
not
he
here.
on tonight?
No, he's not on. No, he's not on. We'll haze Jason instead.
That's fine. I can do this.
It's very hard.
I gotta look at my phone for the words. Hold on a second.
Well,
Yeah,
I
you're
looked
supposed
up
to
the
say that out
original.
loud.
They've changed it 3 times.
Oh,
That's
the team
new.
has upgraded.
Okay.
We are being recorded now.
You have to consent.
I know, right?
It's good.
Not surprised.
We're ready to go, Erin.
Awesome. It is 7:01. Today is Monday, May 24th, 2021, and we are in a public hearing for the Village Council of Chagrin Falls for zoning. And I said that terribly, a zoning hearing for the Village of Chagrin Falls. Could we please do the roll call?
DiBernardo,
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Grube,
Here.
Newell,
Here.
Rocky,
Here.
Rogoff,
Here.
Wyval.
Here.
Stop.
Well, okay. Dale, do we need to read the captions on these? We don't, do we?
No.
Okay. If any members of the public would like to address council, we have 2 zoning matters before us. We're going to ask you to use the raise your hand function. The 2 matters before us. The first one is ordinance 2021-19, and feel free to raise your hand at any time. I'm just going to explain them real quick as you decide if you would like to talk. And it looks at a number of village-owned parcels, mostly along making up the riverbanks, and 2 pieces of property that were gifted to the village, one through a donation and one through the Save Grove Hill effort. I guess that was last year at about now. And both of those 2 properties have conservation easements. The public land along the river is currently zoned parks, but it more fits into our conservation district definition. So we thought we would just tidy up our map a little bit and get those put in the right places. Conservation district allows for paths, but not for ball fields. So we will not be putting in ball fields along the river on the steep bank. Okay, and then the other piece of zoning adjusts the timeline. So if for appealing a matter, if we make an administrative error on your paperwork. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
There's somebody who was admitted to the meeting.
Oh, okay, there we go. Mr. Rogers, can you please state your name and address for the record? You're on mute, sir.
There, can you hear now?
Yep, go ahead.
So I'm Mark Rogers, live at 68 West Summit Street, and I have a comment regarding the 2021-20.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I go ahead and comment?
Oh, yeah, please do.
Okay, so actually I have some comments. My wife has some comments. Looking at the proposed revisions to section 1111.03, it strikes me that section E in particular is just not necessary. I don't know why the village would need to provide specific dates for appeals when there are instructions to determine those dates available, and those instructions could even be provided on the forms for the appeals. It just it seems like the village doesn't need to lead the appellants along that by providing those dates, and it just provides another opportunity to make errors when just a reference to the appropriate methods of defining those dates would be adequate. And adding the section 1103E that's proposed also creates some uncertainty for those that might be opposed to an appellant. So if an appellant ends up with a revised date for deadline date for filing an appeal, those that oppose the appellant might not be adequately informed or may need to be informed by the village. So to me, it just seems simpler to eliminate the village out of the business of giving definite dates and then just instead tell the appellants how to determine the appropriate dates.
Okay.
And I think my wife had some additional comment on the other parts of 2021-20 that are proposed.
Okay, go ahead.
So, thanks. My name is Hope Gumprecht, and the address is 68 West Summit Street. And we just became aware of this because we were involved in the So Leather Lane drama. So we heard about it and just looked at it and thought, basically unrelated to that, we've been in the position of filing an appeal. So based on that experience, we kind of wondered, is this an ongoing problem that you're getting a lot of late appeals that then needs to be addressed? And if that's the case, there are instructions on the village website. That's how I figured out how to file an appeal, was I searched how to file an appeal, and they show up in the building department and they state how to do it. You kind of have to include that information because the cover sheet's right there that you got to file the appeal on. So it seems like that might be the place to address this issue if it is one, and perhaps clarifying, some of the information referring to the ordinance that clarifies the 10 days might be helpful. It might be useful to look at what other communities have done, if they have had these problems and how they've addressed them. And that's really it. I just don't want to see a lot more work for village, administrators, and more potential confusion. And thank you for your time.
Thanks. Do you have any, okay. Mr. Black.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jim Black. I'm a resident down on Low Street. Before I had any comments, I wanted to see, and I'm not sure if this is the time to do it, some explanation from the council on the proposed Arboretum trail that's going to run in front of our house. I know this is to make that possible, to change from parks to conservation. And I just need to know if this is the forum to discuss it, and I'd like to know what the plans are before I make any more comments.
Yeah, so we actually, I'm sorry, my language is not helping me today. The path is planned even under the park designation, a lot of P's in there. And it will go down along the old quarry road that you can still see there. And that section's pretty like normal width of road. And then it will go along the floodplain at the river level. It would not be, sort of like eye level with the houses. Does that, Bill, do you want to just correct me more?
Yeah, so it is a path. There's no construction of any bridges or walkways or anything of that nature down there?
There will be a construction of some gravel walkways and the one bridge, I believe, over that. And then when we get down to the bridge, the Cleveland Street Bridge, there'll have to be a set of stairs or a ramp to be determined in a phase 2 of the project. But once those plans are developed, would be the appropriate time to have a meeting before anything started with that. The idea is to provide more river level access and not to interfere with anybody's house. It will be, as Aaron said, down on the river, which is beneath the plane of sight. And we're planning on planting some evergreens on that hillside if required to further screen it.
And then, Mayor, where would you say it would come up to the bridge? It would come up to Low Street?
Well, I come up to Cleveland Street, but you know where the embankment is for that bridge? I believe it would turn up there. We haven't fully engineered those plans. They're not, totally done, but that's what the concept would be. Or doing some switchback ramping if that's possible. But in all likelihood, that part of the project would be deferred for cost reasons. Right now, the cost of lumber or plastic wood, which is the preferable substance to use, is frankly just obscene. And so we were thinking of just doing the gravel portion with that one little bridge over where it floods. And we're talking about I don't know, 6-foot span, not certainly, it's hardly dignified by calling it a bridge. But that's all that's really likely to be proposed to happen this year.
Okay, so is this the forum to put forward some concerns about the whole project, or is that?
No, this is not the form for this.
Okay.
This is just zoning it. The issue of the zoning, if it's zoned parks or it's zoned conservation district, has no effect on the ability to do a walking path in there. We're not planning on cutting down any trees at all, and we are literally going to hug what appears to have been a spoil bank from the old quarry construction and keep it, as distant as we can be from the Low Street properties, but yet out of the floodway of the river.
Okay, and so I guess the only question I would have then at this point is, what's the incentive of building this, and why are we even talking about it? I just don't understand where
Well, the incentive
need
is to have a river walk that is, and we are deviating from the purpose of tonight's meeting, which is the zoning
Okay.
change.
Sure.
But the purpose of the walk is to have a river walk that starts at the front of River Run Park, goes up through River Run Park by the library, over Mill Street, crosses the Cleveland Street Bridge, goes down along the river, up into the Vincent Street Arboretum, and back into town. That's a very historic part of the village. It was the old quarry from which most of the sidewalks and foundations came. And the plans are with the Historic Society to do appropriate markers along that path.
Okay, all right, then I will conclude and see you guys at the next meeting when this is discussed. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for attending tonight.
Sure.
Any other public comment on the zoning legislation? Okay, seeing none, we will adjourn the public meeting at 7:13. Switch my papers around. Oops. Okay, so it is 7:13 and this is a regular meeting of the Chagrin Falls Village Council. It is May 24th, 2021. Leading us tonight in our Pledge of Allegiance is Lieutenant Weitzkopf. Okay.
Okay. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
and to the republic
for
for
which
which
it
it stands,
stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I appreciate it.
Hmm?
Okay, roll call, please. Mr. Bloom,
Bernardo,
you're muted.
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Group,
There we go.
I was just
Oh.
unmuted. I'm here.
okay. Newell? Newell,
Everyone got muted, just as the heads up, if your name hasn't been
I
called
think
for the roll yet.
The
Okay, I'm
pledge
here.
mute went in
Yeah.
late.
I'm here, I'm
Right.
here, I'm here.
Thank you, Eric.
Rocky,
Here.
Rogoff,
Here.
Wyval?
Here.
Okay, we have no minutes to approve tonight. A report of the mayor.
Excuse me. Yes, I just have two items. I don't know if you want to take the presentation of the charter amendments from John Mitchell at this time or later.
I think Mr. Mitchell would love it if we moved him up.
Yeah, I thought so too. So I've got two items tonight. John Mitchell will present the Charter Commission's recommendations to council, and then I have three proclamations that I want to talk to. So if John's here, let him go. If not, I'll start with my proclamations.
Mr. Mitchell, your
Thank you. I'll
time.
bring Mr. Mitchell into the meeting. Just a moment while he connects.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to present. The Charter Review Commission sent correspondence to Village Council on May 10th, 2021, that outlined our process, our participants, and the recommendations that we were going to make to Village Council in terms of corrections or amendments or additions to the charter. I don't want to run through all of those because it will be a long meeting. And I hope that the 2 red line versions that we attached that our law director was kind enough to prepare for us covered what we think needs to be done. But really, I'm here more than anything to answer questions about that process, about our view. Oh, let me turn on my video here. There I am. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And talk about what we did and why we decided the way that we did. I think I am going to touch upon the 4 topics that we laid out in, if you're looking at my correspondence, that would be page 3, regarding extending council's length of service, the succession planning in the event of a mayoral vacancy. Dale's very thoughtful revisions to the charter as a whole that we were really able to capitalize on his experience and wisdom, and the finance director qualifications. I'm going to start in reverse order only because I think some of these are fairly straightforward and we can knock them out quickly. With finance director qualifications, look, the bottom line was this: is we think that there should be a process in place that sets out minimal experience and competencies for the folks that we employ who have what I would call more of a skill-based set or specialized training or knowledge. But frankly, we trust council to figure out what those minimum capabilities should be, and we didn't feel that that was something that needed to be addressed through the charter process. If anybody has any questions about that, I'm happy to answer those, or I can move on to my next topic. All right, and this is not like a going, gone kind of thing. If you think of something later on you want to ask again, I am here, and if I get any tough questions, frankly, I'll just disconnect. And that'll be the end of it. All right. So keep that in mind when you're volunteers here in the community. Law Director Markowitz, I can't stress how valuable Dale was to this process. And you know, the red line versions, we sent you one that had what we think are grammatical or kind of non-substantive revisions, and then we had some that we thought were more substantive and we asked him to draft legislation that was kind of put our thoughts, pen to paper to our thoughts, for lack of a better phrase. I think the biggest headache you're going to have is how to amend the charter for those grammatical corrections, and I'm not sure I have a good answer for you, other than perhaps maybe offering something to the village electorate that said something along the lines that, as part of the charter review process, that council will have the ability to make and correct grammatical misstatements or to modernize various non-substantive revisions to the charter. That's food for thought. I haven't really thought that process through, to be honest with you, but those are my thoughts on that issue. But look, it was just it was really a wholesale revision of looking for grammar and consistency. And I think we've got the charter in a place where if somebody sits down and reads it, you know, the stuff that's contained in the later sections will mirror the language in the earlier sections. So however you want to deal with those grammatical errors is fine with me. The other revisions, and I'm going to talk on the remaining 2 here, the succession planning in the event of a mayoral vacancy. I saw our mayor working in his yard this weekend. He's a healthy fella. I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen to him. We all hope. But in the event that that would happen, then Aaron would ascend to the position of mayor, right? And the idea here is this is kind of a worst case scenario. How would we deal with that? And I think the view of the Charter Review Commission was that we would want that to be placed on the ballot as quickly as possible so that the electorate is responsible for choosing our mayor. I think it goes with the job that if you are council president, you have an understanding that you're a heartbeat away from the mayor's position, and that we have something in place that should provide or at least smooth the succession planning in the event something horrible would happen. So that's food for thought. But again, getting it on the in front of our electorate as quickly as we can is really what we thought was the most prudent way to do that.
John, do you mean special election or do you
No,
mean the next
no.
regularly scheduled?
That's exactly, Mayor, great question. That's literally what I was just going to say. And not a special election that would cause the village to incur any additional expense, but just to put it on the next regularly scheduled election.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys looking at that when I asked you to, because I was a little horrified to realize that if Bill got hit by a bus, elected to a 2-year term, like you could be then in someone else's seat for 4 years. It just doesn't seem like in a good faith of the.
I would
back to the voters.
I would concur with that also. And then we really, I mean, you could envision a situation in a political climate where no one on this council or none of our elected officials now would do it, but perhaps some would try to run for mayor and then stack it so the council president would automatically elevate. And it just kind of avoids that political machinations if we have something set in stone that and the charter that governs that process. So those were our thoughts. And then the last one, look, we were very fortunate. Justin Herdman was on the Charter Review Commission. He had served on as a council person. I had served as a council person. And with regards to extending term lengths, we gave this some thought. And I'll be frank, if you would ask me 5 years ago, I don't know that I would have gone for this. I don't know that I would have supported it. But having served on council and Mr. Herdman was able to contribute as well. I mean, it takes some time to get up to speed. And I think new council people would agree that there's much more that goes into running our village than simply showing up for meetings on a Monday evening. And it takes upwards, I felt like it took me at least a year to kind of get my feet wet and understand exactly what was going on in council and how our village works. And I think that Justin would echo those comments. And so we thought, would it be a bad thing if we asked for 4-year terms from our council people? And for the reasons that I outlined in my correspondence that I'm going to run through right now, we think it would be a good thing. First, as I mentioned moments ago, it allows council, newly elected council people to gain necessary experience on the job prior to having to run for re-election. We think that it's important to preserve institutional knowledge and best practices so that we are operating from a position of experience as council and that we're not reinventing the wheel with perhaps failed initiatives or other decisions that we've made in the past that didn't work out, that we capture that institutional knowledge and we're able to capitalize on it. I think that number 3, if sometimes council has to make hard decisions and they may not be popular decisions. And I think in the event that those decisions are made, it would be troubling to the members of the Charter Review Commission to think that the entire council could be voted out of office. And then we would have 7 new people responsible for running the village with the mayor, which could be very problematic, particularly if that new administration decided to make wholesale changes to the law department or the other folks who help us run the village, right? So, and then lastly, I think, I wouldn't say that this is a common occurrence, but I've seen in the past where people will get on and they'll stay for a term, or they'll maybe get transferred or something like that. And I think just that 4-year term will really force prospective council members to take a long look at the mayor and say, is this something I'm really committed to doing? And, obviously we want the best and the brightest sitting on our village council, but also those who are committed. And I've heard it said the most important part of ability is availability, right? And so we want people who are really committed to this job and are willing to put the time and energy into keeping our village running in the way that it has. So, as you'll see in what Law Director Markowitz drafted is a proposal on how to make that happen. And the thought would be that at the next election, 3 council seats would be up for a 4-year term. And then at the election immediately after that, the next 4 would be up for the 4-year term. So there wouldn't be a significant disruption to the electoral process. And
by next term, the next election, you mean in 2023, because this would be on the ballot in 2021. So these would not take.
However that would shake out, Aaron. I hadn't thought that far down, but I see Dale nodding, which.
I would just clarify.
I believe Aaron's correct, John.
Okay, well, I have no reason to dispute it, so
we're
I'm
all
not
up
gonna. But no, I think this is when my experience on council, it's a very well-run village, and I think that I've seen the commitment of the council people I served with and those of you serving now. And I think this is just something and overall will perhaps make your jobs easier. And again, allow us to capture the institutional knowledge that is so vital to keeping things running smoothly. So you know, like I said, I started my comments by saying 5 years ago, I don't know that I would have agreed with this, but I can tell you that all the members of the Charter Review Commission thought that this was a good idea. And there was significantly less discussion on this than I anticipated. So those are our thoughts. Those are the issues that I think are really the pressing, for lack of a better phrase, issues for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And other than that, that's my report.
Do we have any questions for John?
I have one question, Aaron.
Go ahead, Jen.
Would the mayor be elected with the 3 council members?
Yes.
I to be honest with you, I had not considered that, but that would seem to make sense to me
If
if
the three
it aligns.
council people were elected along the timeframes Aaron just laid out, that would coincide with the end of my term, Jan.
Okay.
Yep. The thought
I think that would be appropriate. So you'd have 4 council members, you know, and then 2 years later, 3 council members and the mayor. That would seem to be logical.
Yeah, then you'd have 4 and 4, and that seems to be, frankly, a happy coincidence the way this worked out. So,
Right.
People that have to run, we're gonna have to designate who's running for a 2-seat term and who's running for a 2-year term and a 4-year term? Is that?
Yeah, you would pull papers for either a 2-year term or a 4-year term in 2023. And then elections beginning in 2025 would only be for 4-year terms. You see it sometimes when there's it happened a couple years ago on the school board because there was an expired term and for some reason it was on the ballot.
That's correct.
So people would make a choice in 2023 and then it smooths out after that. I think would be manageable. I mean, 5 years ago, I was with John Mitchell on the side of like 2-year terms. And after understanding the learning curve that goes into being on council, I personally support the 4-year adjustment to 4 years.
Thank you, John.
Darren has his hand up, so I don't know if I'm supposed to call on you or Aaron is.
Thank you, John. No, my question's pretty straightforward, I think. How would we determine who is going to run for those 3 terms and other 4 council members' terms? Is that a voluntary thing? Or you?
Yep. You would choose. Yeah, you would choose when you go to the Board of Elections. You would say, I would like papers for a 2-year term, or I would like papers for a 4-year term. But only in 2023 is that an issue.
Thank you. That's a voter decision, not a council person decision.
No, it is a person running for council decision, whether or not they want to run for 2 or 4-year commitment.
We're going to run into the issue where everybody's going to register for both.
That was my
Run
question.
for more than 1 seat at a time.
Right.
You can only run for 1.
Got it. Okay.
Well, then if everybody runs for the 4-year and nobody runs for the 2-year, you're in that same situation. So there's some conversation that's gonna have to go on.
I think it's rock, paper, scissors at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be some type of lottery because, as you both point out, you could have everybody that wanted to run for council running for the 4-year terms and nobody wanting to run for the 2-year terms. I think that transitional year is going to present some tough issues.
Yeah.
It did work out with the school board. Without any kind of.
Yeah, I don't know, Angie. I don't know what they did. We obviously can find out. We don't have to decide tonight, as John pointed out.
Dale?
My experience with that issue has been that the people who that are running for the first time tend to run for the shorter term, figuring that the incumbents are going to run for the 4-year term. So there's some interesting dynamics to it, but it all works out, and it's an individual choice of whoever's running, whether they're on council or not.
Okay, thank you. I'm not arm wrestling Rocky.
You guys could just go in executive session and fight it out amongst yourselves, and whoever comes out of the room wins, right? I mean,
I don't think that qualifies.
Oh, well, then.
Nope, does not.
I'm tapped out.
Mud wrestling is not on the qualifications. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Mitchell?
It's a good discussion and appreciate everything you've done, John.
Yeah, thank you for all the time you and the committee spent. You ran very enjoyable meetings. They were very prompt, only running 1 hour. And you had a very enjoyable, lively discussion. So thank you to you and everybody else on the charter for your time.
And I'd like to add my thanks, John, to you and the whole committee. It was a lot of hard work and it was well-considered recommendations, and we appreciate the job you did and the time you committed.
My pleasure. Let me say, I did want to stress one final thing. I mean, this was a really collaborative process, and that everybody on the Charter Review Commission committed their time and their energy and their contributions. This was not driven by any one particular person, but really was a result of a lot of collaboration and thought. And so I would thank the members of the commission as well.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Right.
now,
Enjoy your evening.
all right, continuing with the mayor's report, I have the pleasure of issuing 3 proclamations tonight to various groups that add to the beauty and functioning of our village and the quality of life we all enjoy here. So the first is 2021-1, a proclamation declaring May 25th, 2021 as School Crossing Guard Appreciation Day in the village of Chagrin Falls. Whereas the village of Chagrin Falls crossing guards provide protection to the school children of the community. They make their way to and from school, and whereas the adult crossing guards create a visible presence to remind motorists of the importance and caution within school zones, and whereas the adult crossing guards assist the pedestrian safety education of the school children by modeling safety and legal crossing behaviors, and whereas the crossing guards are an important component of the Chagrin Falls Safe Routes to School program, which makes the community safe for the kids. This will be posted in its entirety. I've just read the beginning whereas is tonight in the interest of the meeting time, but they will all be posted tonight or tomorrow morning on the village website. The second one is Mayoral Proclamation 2021-2 to the Chagrin Falls first responder teams of police, fire, and EMS services that have served the village residents with professionalism and dedication 24/7, 365 days a year. Whereas the first responders teams have sought to foster open community communications and interactions where the brave men and women serving the emergency responser field are vital to the well-being of our citizens and communities. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic first responders have remained on the front line of the emergency, risking their own health to help others. And whereas the village of Chagrin Falls residents wish to honor and salute the services to their community in the official show of appreciation to the Chief Amber Dasick, her police teams, to Frank Zugan and his fire and emergency medical teams. Thank you very much for your service. We all appreciate it. And this too will be posted in its entirety. And my third one is Mayor Proclamation 2021-3, whereas Chagrin Falls is proud to recognize and join in celebrating the Valley Arts Center on the occasion of its 50th anniversary in Chagrin Falls. The Village Arts Center has made substantial contribution to the visual arts community, providing excellence in art education to the Chagrin Valley, whereas the Village Arts Center has provided art classes, art exhibitions, fine art shopping for decades to our multi-generational community, from beginners to seasoned professionals. And whereas the Valley Arts Center Gallery hosts multiple exhibits annually with curated, invitational, and juried shows, including local, regional, and national arts from the Cleveland area and beyond, and where the Valley Arts Center will continue to serve as a leading source of inspiration to the visual arts community as an exemplary leader for generations to come. We applaud all of those and all the work that they have done, and all proclamations will be up in their entirety on the village website. And that concludes my mayor's report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Report of the Finance
I
Director.
have no report tonight, Madam President.
Okay. And we don't have any members listed to speak to the agenda items. Okay.
No, we don't.
Mr. Markowitz.
Thank you. Before I go into the legislative docket, I also wanted to thank Mr. Mitchell and his whole committee. Also a special thank you to Catherine Gatos, who is the one who put together all those grammatical changes, which was not easy to do. And I sure hope that John Mitchell lives here for at least another 5 years in the village so we can make him chairman again in 5 years.
Going to start a draft Mitchell movement.
Right. Yeah, they made my job a lot easier. It was a pleasure working with them. The first item we have on the legislative docket is ordinance number 2021-19, an ordinance amending the planning and zoning code of the Village of Chagrin Falls and amending the zoning map of Chagrin Falls.
Okay, so we had our public hearing. This is being introduced by Ms. Rogoff. Do we have any discussion? We've heard, this is our third reading.
I'm having a hard time coming around with what the necessary reason for this change is. I mean, like, what are we preventing by doing this? Or are we just, because to me, it feels like we're just doing it to do it. So I'm looking for a little bit more persuasion, I guess, on what the benefit is of doing this.
So we have two properties that the village currently owns and we came into possession of within like the last 12 months or so. The first is the river adjacent property at Cleveland and Low Street, which was foreclosed upon by the county, and it is currently zoned residential. And it does not make sense to keep this in a residential district since it's owned by the municipality and it's a steep hillside. It's not a lot that I don't think any of our boards would be excited to see a building plan come
It's
forward.
an unbuildable lot, Aaron.
I thought I wasn't allowed to
floodway
say
on the
that.
hillside.
Yes.
So if there was an unbuildable lot, this would be a candidate for that designation. And then we have the second half of the Grove Hill property, which is also zoned residential. And my personal feeling is that when we're putting parkland into a property, we should probably zone it correctly so that the uses are clear to the entire community for that space. And when I started looking at those two, the other properties came sort of like, I mean, they popped out. I mean, the property at the bend of the river, we can't put a ball field down there. We have a conservation easement on that. It does not make sense to have it in parks. It just doesn't fit the definition. We do also have the conservation easement on the Grove Hill Park property as well. And the other ones, it's really designed to protect fragile landscapes, and that's exactly what we'd be doing with this change.
But what's the risk? What risk are we going through by not rezoning them? I mean, the village owns the property.
Yes.
The village gets to decide what's going to happen to them. So there's no risk of somebody building anything on it. So
I mean, my take is that it's sloppy to leave things miszoned.
So yeah, what's the risk?
My take is that it's housekeeping, it's tidying things up. It's a little sloppy to leave things zoned in the wrong thing. When we last looked at this map, gosh, what was that, 2019 when we did that big overhaul?
Yes.
Like we had this parks and institution district, and we really kind of like just did some minor looks at that map. I wouldn't say we rezone properties on a regular basis. I just think it's, for me anyway, it's tidying up. I'll let other people talk though.
No, I second your view, Aaron. It was just simply a housekeeping matter. We thought when you first brought this to my attention, I didn't have any problem with it. These properties are not ones that you want to see anything developed on. And I thought that was appropriate to rezone it. You clearly don't want something municipal owned that in all good conscience is a totally unbuildable lot, and I'm referring to that one off Low Street now, to remain in a residential, nor do I feel you want to leave Grove Hill so in residential when it's going to be a public park. So, I mean, it just seemed to me logical and consistent to rezone them.
The other element is that parks have different rules and different freedom of speech rights than conservation areas. And I think it's important to recognize that, you have a right to assemble in a park in a way that you don't necessarily in conservation land. They'll yell at me if I'm saying something wrong, if I'm misspeaking.
No, you got it right. That's correct.
And so when we look at hours and stuff like that for parks, it's just different than conservation. And that's why we categorize things by the way they're intended to be used. And I think as the council that is sitting here during the time in which we're taking possession of these properties, I sort of feel like it's our duty and our responsibility to properly categorize them within the village zoning.
I couldn't agree more. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I don't think it's a waste of time.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a question of risk or what a downside to it. I think that it's just a more appropriate zoning category for those particular parcels of land. The conservation district is actually relatively new compared to the parks and institution that we used to have. I think it came into effect when we acquired Whitesburg Park.
That's correct, Nancy.
And so it's a more appropriate zoning category for those particular parcels based on their topography and the fact that the village owns them particularly and their intended use.
Darren, Angie, Jan, anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like my understanding, because we've talked about this now a little bit, is just the changeover in language from parks to conservation, just to make it more, I guess, in line with its actual intended use, which is not for ball fields, and to have it be conserved, or have the conservation tag put on it so that it can't be developed. So that's my understanding, unless I don't.
No, I think you're correct, Darren.
Then I think it makes sense. I'm in favor of it.
I'm also in favor. I mean, I guess my understanding of how we came about to take this action is we acquired some property, which made us take a look at the rest of the property in similar circumstances. So I think it seems like an appropriate time to do those housekeeping and cleaning up moves. So, I think these are appropriate designations for this land, and we should go ahead and do this.
Jan, do you have anything you wanted to add?
My only concern is what Mr. Black brought up, and I can understand him not wanting a pathway in his front yard, and I understand it won't be in the front yard, but it's going to be very close to his front yard. And so I would urge us as a council, as we move forward, to make sure that that does not happen.
That's a fair point. Okay. Is there anyone who has anything else to add that hasn't been said? Okay. Then at this time, I would move to approve ordinance 2021-19.
Second.
Motion by Group, second by Newell. Roll call, please.
DiBernardo,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Rube,
Aye.
Newell,
Aye.
Rocky,
No.
Rogoff,
Aye.
Wyval.
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Markowitz.
Ordinance number 2021-20 is our next item. It's an ordinance amending the planning and zoning code of the Village of Chagrin Falls and amending section 1111.03, parens A, parens B, and parens C, and adding subsection parens E, and amending section 1111.10 by moving subsection G to a new section 1111.11 and adding new language regarding appeals of administrative matters.
It would be cruel to make you repeat that, right?
I got it. I nailed it the first time.
Yes, you did.
You did fabulous. Okay, do we have any discussion? This is the zoning code change that would clarify the appeal rules in case of an administrative error.
So Mr. and Mrs. Rogers commented on this one.
Yeah.
And their concern was that the dates or times should not be in this legislation.
Yeah, they didn't think it should be provided.
About that?
If I understand the comment, it was instead of leading people to, or giving more incentives to appeal, is the forms and the information should be on the website for them to follow. The difficulty with that is council has to set a date for when the appeal has to be filed, or there'd be no deadline. So then whoever applied for a permit would be waiting, forever to find out whether somebody's going to appeal. So by ordinance, you have to create that deadline. And so then we set the procedure of how this happens. The reason for this ordinance is that there was some lack of clarity on when the 10 days starts to run for an appeal to be filed and when notice goes out, who gives the notice, how it's done. And then we also dealt with a situation that arose at Solither Lane where an appeal was filed after the deadline based on incorrect information. So we were trying to fix that But as was reflected in their comments, you don't want the applicant waiting forever. So we gave a maximum of an additional 10 days beyond the normal 10 days for any appeal to be filed. And if you don't file it within that 20 days, then it's over.
Okay, thank you, Dale. I appreciate that.
Okay, any more questions, clarifications on this? Does this happen? This hasn't happened a lot, though.
No. Once.
It was, when it happened, it was a very convoluted decision. So right,
Correct.
this is clarity to, it gives us a hard date, a hard stop to go against. And it takes kind of a lot of the guesswork out of the decision-making process if it happens again in the future.
My understanding, do you guys all understand what the Rogers were saying? Sounded to me like there's more information than needed in this thing. And that was the only objection, really, that you could find it on your own if you hunt for it, but it's not. Is that kind of what they were saying?
Darren, that's what I took away from their comments too.
So
it was
doesn't-
redundant was kind of what they were saying.
So that's the biggest problem. I don't see that as really that much of a problem.
Yeah, and I guess I don't see that as a problem. I think having a definite time from which you should appeal, it belongs in an ordinance. It belongs in the law, not on some website that you have to hunt for.
Right.
Well said.
It's not legally, I mean, we'd have a hard time legally arguing, you know, if we had made a decision, if it's not in the ordinance.
Right.
Okay. Any more conversation on this one?
No.
No. Okay, well then I would motion to approve ordinance 2021-20.
Second.
Motion by Group, second by Rocky. Roll call, please.
Evans,
Aye.
Group,
Aye.
Newell,
Aye.
Rocky,
Aye.
Roga,
Aye.
Wyval,
Aye.
DiBernardo.
Aye.
Okay. Next ordinance is 2021-22, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a parking lease with the Board of Education of Chagrin Falls exempted village schools to provide additional parking within the business districts of the village and declaring an emergency.
Just
Okay.
basically, well, go ahead.
Mr. Newell.
Yes, this was something that came up in March, and we came up with this lease last week, kind of last minute, with the help of the law director and Rob Jamison. And it is actually listed as declaring an emergency. The school district is graciously letting the village use 33 parking spaces at the Phil Mathian School for the summer for employee parking, and we need every parking space we can get. And this lease takes effect on the 25th and goes into August. There is no money that's changing hands. It just defines the responsibilities of both parties.
Jim, it's May 28th it goes into effect.
What did I say?
You said the 25th.
Oh, 28.
Okay.
And
That
the
would be
school
after
board's
school
already-
ends.
The school board's already agreed to it,
Yes.
but just needs.
Well,
form-
the school board hasn't voted on it to my knowledge.
But it's put in their packet, right? It's
Yes.
their school. Okay.
Yes.
Basically, the same agreement we had in 19.
It's very similar. Yeah, the difference is the location of the parking spaces has changed.
Correct.
We're not going to issue tickets though if people don't have a permit, right? Because the Gurney, like the summer school is being held at intermediate school. There's construction going on some of the sandstone.
It'll be temporarily marked, Aaron, and it doesn't start till 3 p.m. when the
Okay,
summer
sorry.
school and the other training is over, and it's also on Saturday and Sunday.
Sorry,
So,
I missed that. My apologies.
sorry.
I have no issues as long as there's the space.
Okay. If there's no other comments, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the 3 rules.
Second.
Motion by Newell, second by Evans. Roll call, please.
Herb,
Aye.
Newell,
Aye.
Rocky,
Aye.
Rogoff,
Aye.
Weigel,
Aye.
DiBernardo,
Aye.
Evans,
Make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-22.
Second,
Motion by Newell, second by Evans. Roll call, please.
Newell,
Aye.
Rocky.
Aye.
Rogoff,
Aye.
Weigel,
Aye.
DiBernardo,
Aye.
Evans,
aye.
Brooke.
Aye. Okay, back to you, Mr. Markowitz.
Next item is ordinance 2021-23. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to take all actions necessary to accept Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council 2021 Energized Community Grant Funds and declaring an emergency.
This is always my favorite type of ordinance because they're giving us money. Mr. Newell, you get to introduce.
Yes, this Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council gives out grants, and we typically are on the receiving end of money, which we apply to electrical applications in the village. We are scheduled to receive $13,828 this year. And we've got 3 or 4 different projects that we could apply that to. And this ordinance just authorizes the mayor to accept the funds when they become available. And it is an emergency, so we can get this money in soon.
Okay, this one I think is going to be a real nail biter. Do we have any discussion on it?
Motion to suspend,
Second.
Motion by Evans, second by Newell. Roll call, please.
Rocky,
Aye.
Rogoff,
Aye.
Weigel,
Aye.
DiBernardo,
Aye.
Evans,
aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Newell,
Aye. Motion to adopt.
Second,
Second.
Motion by Newell, second by Evans. Roll call, please.
Rogoff,
Aye.
Weigel,
Aye.
DiBernardo,
Aye.
Evans,
aye.
Grube,
Aye.
Newell,
Aye.
Rocky,
Aye.
Wow, we made short work of that one. Mr.
Yeah.
Mike.
Okay, next one is ordinance number 2021-24. An ordinance amending the planning and zoning code of the village of Chagrin Falls and amending section 1135.02 parens A parens 1 and adding new section 1135.02 parens A parens 1 parens capital B.
That was a very short intro. Thank you. Miss Rogoff, this comes from you,
It's-
planning and zoning.
It's kind of a very small change. So this proposed change is in response to the application by Mr. Shibley on his office building on Bell Street. He wanted to have a barber in a very small space there, and he couldn't do that. And I think he applied for a use variance, and that was denied. And so planning and zoning thought they would take a look at uses in the office zone. And this change is a result of that. And the proposal is to allow some retail service in a multi-use office building. And it would be only 30% of the square footage of the building that would be allowed, that would have a retail service use would be permitted.
Okay.
So it's not really, I mean, it's the whole building, but the whole building doesn't get leased. In any whole building doesn't get leased. There's halls, stairways, possibly elevators, bathrooms. You know, there's a lot of sort of common area. So the actual leasable space of an office building, such as the Bell Street buildings, is less than if you just, measure the whole outside of the building and said the square footage is whatever.
Okay. Mr. Rocky, did you have a comment?
So it's 30% of the leasable space.
No.
No.
The whole building.
The whole thing? Okay.
One other comment.
Actually leasable space.
One other comment. I made a minor change in section 3 of the ordinance because it had said the primary means of egress to the principal building. We changed it to ingress and egress to and from the principal building.
Do we need a motion to amend this then, Dale?
Yes, because it's a modification of the planning commission's You're not amending the ordinance, you're approving the ordinance as modified from the planning commission recommendation.
Okay, so we need a motion.
Right.
I think Jan has a question though.
Yeah, I have a question also.
Okay, we will come to the motion in 1 second. Darren, go ahead. I saw your hand first.
Just a little minor point, I think. So the 30% of the gross square footage, right? I understand that. What if there are multiple tenants in that building, which this addresses here? Can any tenant, like in one tenant, have that full 30%? Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to be aware.
Jan?
Yes, I would like to put this on readings because I did not get the legislation. And I don't want to vote on it.
Yeah, we'll
You
have to read that legislation.
It has to go to a public
It's
hearing.
zoning
so you
anyway.
have
It
to-
has to have a public hearing. So
I still would like to put it on readings. I'm not going to.
So that's what
That's
we're
how I
saying.
feel.
Right.
It
We're
has
gonna-
to go, we're gonna have to have
Three
three readings
readings,
because
yeah.
we have to have a public hearing.
That's fine.
Okay, so since we are talking about the public hearing, I would like to plan this public hearing for Monday, June 28th, 2021 at 7:00 PM, and we'll do it just like we did today. Does that work for everybody?
I would like to suggest we amend this ordinance tonight so that we have the corrected one for the next meeting.
Look at you, that was my next
Great.
idea too.
Oh, I'm
Great
sorry,
time.
get away.
Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Knoll, and we can just
I
vote
would
on
like
it?
to make a motion to amend the ordinance per the law director's comments.
Second.
Okay, motion by Knoll, second by DiBernardo. Roll call, please.
Weigel,
Hi.
Bernardo,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Grube,
Aye.
Newell,
Aye.
Rocky,
Aye.
Rogoff.
aye.
Okay. So this legislation will stay on for 3 readings and we will have a public hearing on June 28th.
I'd like to make one other comment. I said this the other day, and it's something to keep in mind for the public hearing. I raised the question, what happens if you have a building that doesn't have a common entranceway, and therefore you might need to have separate entrances for each tenant as well as the retail sales? I was advised by Rob Jameson that they kind of did an informal survey and found that there would be almost no situation in the village where there is no common entranceway, but just something to think about for the public hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments before we move on? I will say I thought planning and zoning did a nice job looking at all the options for how this could have taken shape and taking Mr. Shibley's input and sort of working very well together. So thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dale, now it's your turn.
Okay. Ordinance number 2021-25 is the last one. It's an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a donation agreement with the Connor Foundation of Hunting Valley, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, so this one's coming from me. In early January, end of December, out of the blue, just like we received that $100,000 for the pathway in Riverside, the Connor Foundation reached out to me expressing interest in helping design and eventually fund a new playground in Riverside Park. So their gift is $20,000, which we believe will cover the cost of the design. And that belief comes from Land Studio, who is located on the west side of Cleveland, and they regularly do public playgrounds in many communities. So we're pretty comfortable with that number. So the gift would help us design a new playground. And eventually that would be then handed to a community group for some public fundraising is the intention. And we talked a little bit about this during the capital budget meeting, sorry. And so here it is today, ready to go. So the thought would be we would probably kick this off in early June if this were to pass tonight. The designer would then hold some public input meetings in order to get feedback from the community about what people would like to see. And obviously the intention would not be to build anything to the scale you see in orange. We're looking at the same square footprint that we're sort of looking at now, just the path on the outside and consolidating the play space with the swing space. And I think our hope is that when we remove the existing structure, it would be stable enough that we could put it down in River Run Park on Solon Road for additional life down there. And then maybe remove the one that's down there, which has sort of lost its usable life. So.
Well said.
Thanks, Jim. Angie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had some questions, and I'm sure that I just want to understand the donation agreement, and this is really probably a Dale question. The way I understand this works is we would pay the design firm and we'd be submitting bills to the Connor Foundation, who'd be reimbursing us. So in the conditions of donation, one of the things is we're selecting the design firm from the list provided by the land studio. Is that, we can select bids from a pre-vetted from another group? Is that?
Yeah, we can, because this is a service contract, so we don't have to go to public bidding on this.
Okay, good. That's, I was just confused by that. But so they're going to provide us the list, which it's all explained very well. And then we will basically pick from that group, and that'll be our design firm. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, the only other thing that I wanted clarified was the foundation recognition. This is if we do a recognition, then the foundation would be listed, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Jan, go ahead.
Yes, would there be a plaque on this? And does this not obligate the village to any expenditures whatsoever? Is that correct?
Correct. This does not obligate the village to build the playground out of our fund. It also does not obligate the village to go forward if we reach a point where we find some part of the project to be infeasible down the road. So it lays out a committee which would sort of help select this designer. Council's really involved in this whole process.
And Rob, I don't need to know tonight, but can you tell me how old the playground equipment currently is that's in Riverside Park?
I believe it's roughly 13 to 15 years old. I know we had parts of it are different ages. I think it was done in a couple different time periods, but I can get you the specifics on that.
Okay, I know we received a NatureWorks grant for it. And I know it's not that old. Does this obligate us in any way to replace our playground equipment every 13 to 15 years?
I don't believe so. And the grant we received was not for the playground equipment. The grant we received from NatureWorks was to remove the drain tile from underneath the old skating pond. And it also then provided one of the swing arches, and it provided the 3 little tubes that sit on tires and some mulch. It also provided mulch.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Okay, I would like to continue to move this project forward so that we can start work with the foundation. So I will motion to approve ordinance 2021-25.
Second.
You have to suspend the
I mean,
rules.
suspend the rules. I knew that. It was in my head too. Thanks, Dale.
Take my second
Motion to
back.
suspend the rules for 2021-25.
Second.
Motion by Grube, second by DiBernardo. Roll call, please.
DiBernardo,
Aye.
Evans, Evans,
No.
Grube.
Aye.
You voted?
Yeah,
Newell?
yes.
Newell,
Aye.
Rocky,
Aye.
Rogoff,
Aye.
Wyval,
Aye.
And I would motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Grube, second by Rogoff. Roll call, please.
Evans,
No.
Grube,
Aye.
Newell,
Aye.
Rocky,
Aye.
Rogoff,
Aye.
Wyval,
Aye.
DiBernardo.
Awesome.
Hey, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Markowitz. That was a long report for you.
Yes, it was.
Okay, council committee reports, admin and compensation.
Nothing to report this evening.
Arts Commission.
I have a short video to play announcing our art winner. So I shall share my screen. Okay. And let me find this QuickTime. And, okay.
My name is Pam Spermuli, and I am the chair of the Chagrin Falls Arts Commission. I'm honored to represent the Chagrin Falls Village in our very first art award for the High School Spring Show. I, along with the other appointed Arts Commission members, all came up with a unanimous decision. And let me tell you, it was not easy. There were so many beautiful pieces. But this piece stuck out for all of us. We all picked it. And not only for the composition, but the way it made you feel wonder. It almost had a story within itself. So the color, the placement, everything about it was fabulous. Now, I don't know the name of the piece, but I know the name of the artist. And I'd like to congratulate Sophia Avery with her fabulous, I believe, painting of what I am titling Head in the Clouds. It is gorgeous. Excellent talent that you have, and I can't wait to see more because Sophia is a junior in high school, and I think your work is beautiful. We all do, and congratulations. Have a wonderful night, and always create. I love it. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.
Well done.
Can I just say that I loved Arts Commission? I loved Arts Commission doing that.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
nice.
And we were trying to do a little video of the presentation of bringing the art piece in, and Sophia apparently did not like that idea. I guess, I don't know, because she snuck in and gave the work to Mayor Tomko. But that will be hanging somewhere in Village Hall, and we will try to do this every year. So yeah, that was a fun process, we enjoyed it. The only other art news is you probably all have noticed that the Valley Art Center has finally done their yarn bombing on the trees in front of their building. That was 2 years talked about at the Arts Commission, and it's livening up that street. And that's all I got.
Board of Zoning Appeals.
We have our next meeting tomorrow night at 7:30.
The Cemetery Commission. You may have heard that Memorial Day is coming up next weekend. There will be a ceremony over at Evergreen. It'll be the traditional ceremony, cut out, the music's a little bit adjusted just based on availability of high school musicians in the middle of the pandemic and school approved or school sanctioned activities. So we had to make some tweaks just to make sure we could keep going forward. Chairs will be provided since the governor has changed the orders. There is no parade. There is no parade though. Okay. Facilities and services.
No report tonight.
Finance Committee, we met on May 20th and our incomes, our tax income is coming in fairly steadily. We're sort of watching to see what happens with the delayed filing deadline for federal taxes and RETA taxes and all that stuff. So far we're optimistic that we'll be on track where we need to be for the end of the year. Parks Commission.
No report for Parks. Next meeting is June 2nd, Wednesday at 8:30 in the morning.
Planning and Zoning Commission.
Planning and Zoning, next meeting is June 21st.
Safety.
No report at this time.
And Shade Tree.
No report tonight.
Streets and Sidewalks.
Yes, Tim or Rob, can you give us an update on East Washington Street, please?
Tim, do you want to touch on that, or would you like me to? I can let you know that the concrete work is underway right now on East Washington. The raising of the castings, leveling the castings, some curb and sidewalk work that's anticipated to wrap up this week. And the final paving is scheduled for early next week. So we should be wrapping this project up here within the next week and a half or so.
Awesome.
Thank you, Rob.
And then Utilities Commission.
No report tonight, Madam President.
A report of the Chief Administrative Officer.
I have no report tonight, Madam President.
Report of the engineer.
No report tonight.
Like speeding through this part. Report of the police lieutenant.
Bing. I have a couple of things. I'd first like to thank Bob and Joe Royer for their continued support during First Responders Week. Concluded on Sunday. It was awesome. They've been incredibly generous, and we truly appreciate their time and effort. The second thing I'd like to mention is I'd like to thank everybody who donated to support our Sergeant Jason Fisher during his time of need. Today, we presented him with a check for $14,500, which is incredible. Also, currently, he's doing better, and as long as he continues to progress, we anticipate him returning to full duty by the end of this year.
Awesome. It's wonderful to hear. Report of the fire chief.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a couple of things. I want to reiterate what Jason said, thanking the Royers for planning the First Responders Day and the parade. It was awesome. Angie got to see us twice. Made the big loop.
Bell Street, that's good.
Yeah, Bell Street gets it. Appreciate that. Thank the mayor also for his recognition with the proclamation. Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate that. And we also, this Thursday, the Boots on the Bar event kicks off our fundraising campaign for the addition. So that's from 6 to 10. Hope to see you all there. So that's the end of my report.
Awesome.
Hey, Frank, can I ask a quick question? If it's appropriate, can you give us an update on Jim?
Sure. So Jim's hanging in there. He's finished with the second round of treatment and had some complications, but he's doing better. He'll be probably going back down to Sideman in about 7 to 10 days for his third round. Just like Jason Fisher, this is going to be a year-long event. And I mean, if you haven't seen the GoFundMe account, this village is absolutely awesome. The amount of money that was raised for Jim and his treatment is incredible, as with Jason too. So thank you all for doing what you do and getting the word out and helping Jim and Beth cope with this. It's tough. It's tough, but he's a tough guy and he'll beat it. He'll be back.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this time, any members of the public who would like to address council to any matter, you can use the raise your hand function in Zoom, and we can move you over to our webinar side, our panelist side, where you can talk to us. Okay, I'm not seeing any raised hands, so we'll pause for one more second just in case. Okay. Does anyone have any miscellaneous items? No miscellaneous items. Well, my friends, then we are going to adjourn today at 8:14. Thank you so much for your stamina tonight. We will see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Aaron.
Bye.
Good meeting. Good job.